Majesties, you gotta watch this. Now, I hope that you're doing all right. Welcome back. If it's your first time coming on here, I would like to say you're welcome. Please do subscribe to this channel and join the family. Now, this matter here is not only upsetting, but it's mind-boggling, you guys. Anyway, this black woman, she's an influencer. She has died at the age of 36, and only because she got misdiagnosed as if she had fibroids. Meanwhile, she had cancer, and it was stage 3 cancer they got to discover a little later. Now, these are some of the things that are part of the primary tests that are done when somebody complains about anything down there. So it makes you think and wonder why such a mistake would be made. Anyway, let me roll this clip and then I'm gonna be back.
Beauty influencer and mom of 2 Jessica Puttway died at the age of 36 from cervical cancer after initially being misdiagnosed with fibroids. My name's Joel, the medical mythbuster, and there's a lot to dive in here to talk about with racial disparities in healthcare. In the United States, black women are the racial group most likely to die from cervical cancer. And recent studies show that rates of cervical cancer are on the rise for young people. In Jessica's case, her symptoms were ignored, leading to a misdiagnosis. In an Instagram post before she passed, she describes how in 2022, she was having intense vaginal bleeding. She ended up being found unconscious by her husband and was rushed to the hospital, where she was told that she was having blood loss because of fibroids. She was discharged the next day. A year later, she was taken to the hospital for the same thing, and she was told that she was having bleeding once again from her fibroids. It took multiple visits until a doctor finally looked at her cervix and sent her to an oncologist. As she says in her post, it turns out it was not a fibroid, but cancer. I was misdiagnosed all this time. This tragic story is an example of the difficulties that black patients face. It's an example of anchoring bias when we look at a diagnosis and we get stuck with it. To the patients watching this, advocate for yourselves. That means getting your HPV vaccine. It's the most safe and effective way to prevent the types of HPV that lead to cervical cancer. Start getting your Pap test at 21 to test for cancer. And to the healthcare professionals out there, I hope you remember this story. Listen to women, especially black women, when they say something doesn't feel normal for them. Jessica's voice may not be here anymore, but her story has to serve as a powerful reminder for the work that needs to be done in medicine.
Guys, this is so sad. Her death could have definitely been prevented. Now she has to leave her husband and 2 of her kids. Really. It's taken over 2 years for that misdiagnosis. Every other time they pretend like they don't know what's happening, or they'll just tell you. And sometimes, most of the times, black women, or should I say black people, have had to stick around with the same diagnosis that they gave them at the hospital, where the problem is still persisting. And I have heard of places where, and instances where they were labeled as lunatics for explaining what their problem is. This is a lot. It definitely says a lot, you guys. And these are the problems that make us say how people are mistreated and discriminated in health. Like, black people are discriminated in health. And when we talk about these things, I think that we're just going crazy. Look at that. It is so sad. She is so young. She is, she doesn't deserve it. Like, what happened should not have happened. Now, I'm not a doctor, but there's some of the things that in research. Sometimes cancer may not have any symptoms, but people may experience pain in the pelvis, and it can occur during sexual intercourse. You may have menstruation that is abnormal, or vaginal bleeding that is heavy. Like, all those are the symptoms and the signs, including things as fatigue, nausea, and weight loss. Now, there's just so many hints, and you can't mean to tell me that with all these, how cancer has now become quite common, a doctor or a health practitioner would not want to take a test for that, which is, I think for me, is just negligence or sheer discrimination, you guys. Now, the test that's done for cervical cancer is the PEP test or the Pap test. It's also called the Pap smear or cervical cytology, which collects cervical cells so they can be checked for changes caused by HPV that may, if left untreated, turn into cervical cancer. It can find precancerous cells and cervical cancer cells. Now, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that they just didn't try to do this test all those 2 years. It's not fair. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, and please do subscribe to this channel for more content as this one. I'm just out here spreading awareness, so y'all take care of yourselves.